This is MacroView Television, and thank you for tuning in to a brand new edition of Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Ray Guo. Have you ever thought about homeschooling your children? And what are some of the factors that families should consider? We're going to learn more on today's program about homeschooling because we're delighted to have a couple on the program who have homeschooled their children over the years. And they are, to my immediate left, of course, is the mother, the wife, and she's Dorota Chen-Wernik, who's originally from Poland. And welcome to our program, Dorota.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. And next to Dorota, of course, is the husband, the father, Timothy Chen. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim.
All right. And like I said at the beginning, Dorota, you originally from Poland, and you have been to Taiwan many years. And tell us then a little bit, how did you and Tim first met, and what was the story behind your marriage? Please.
Well, first time I came to Taiwan many years ago, over 20 years ago, and that was with my father. Oh, okay. Who was actually working here in Taiwan at Zhongyang Daxue, the National Central University in Chongli.
All right.
And at that time, I was already studying Chinese language, sinology, in Poland. Mm-hmm. So I joined my father, who was a scholar at NCU, and that's where I met Tim.
Timothy.
That's right.
And Timothy, you're a student at NCU?
Right, yeah, I was studying English, and so I ran English club and called English Corner, whereby people would meet and talk in English. And so Dorota was interested in meeting more students who can who are English speaking. I mean, although she can speak Mandarin, but it would be found it more interesting, more convenient to speak in English. So we met in the club, so to speak. Yeah.
Good. All right. And when did you guys get married? Right here in Taiwan or back home in Poland?
Well, after a few years, we got married in Poland.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, good.
We actually married three times.
And, really? Once in Poland, once in Taiwan.
Once
How
in
about
Taiwan.
the third?
Yeah, the third one was twice in Poland, once in the church, because back then in 1996, when the church marriage was not recognized by the state.
By the state.
So we have to do a civil wedding as well. And and also we have to do in Taiwan 公证结婚.
Of course.
Yeah, in the court. Yeah.
All right, good. And congratulations. Of course. And how many children do you have now?
We have 3 children.
3 children.
Yes, that's right.
And how old are they?
The oldest, Zosia, she is almost 18 years old. This year will turn 18.
All right.
Then there's the son, Yash, who's going to turn 13. And the youngest one, 5-year-old Anya.
Okay. And were they all born in Taiwan or some of them born in Poland?
Well, the oldest one was actually born in the U.S., so she's American by birth.
All right.
But the 2 other ones,
the
younger ones, were born in Taiwan, yes.
Okay, good.
Right.
And when did the 2 of you thought about homeschooling your children? And first, what was your concept? What is your concept of homeschooling? Please, if I may start with Tim.
Okay. Well, we thought about homeschooling after we came back to Taiwan in 2002, and after we got married, we first moved to the U.S., where I did my master's in Seattle in University of Washington.
Good.
And then after I finished 2 master's degree, I then worked in the U.K. So the whole family moved from U.S. to U.K.
Good.
And then in 2002, we moved back to Taiwan. And that time, Zosia, our oldest daughter, is already going to kindergarten age, but we couldn't find a kindergarten that is suitable for her in Taiwan. Okay. The reason for that is Dorota wanted for her to study only half a day, and she still wanted to teach her about, speak to her in Polish, keep up with the Polish culture and traditions, and etc. And but at that time, in 2002, Taiwan kindergartens were very much into the whole day thing. So most parents want to leave their kids in the kindergarten for as long as possible.
Yes,
and
it's like
so
a daycare center.
Yeah, exactly. They work very long hours, so they will pick them up at 7 or even 8. But Dorota said, "Oh no, we only wanted half a day," and the school was kind of puzzled and said, "Yeah, but we can't run the program just for you. Everybody else stays here." Yes. And so she thought, well, because she is a qualified Montessori kindergarten teacher. So Dorota thought, well, maybe I would just teach my own kid at home. Good. And that's how we started with Zosha, one student, 5-year-old, doing kindergarten, Montessori kindergarten at home.
Okay. And over the years, you have seen, how homeschooling has become more acceptable in Taiwan. But I think a lot of people, when they learned about the concept of homeschooling, the first thing that comes to mind is it legal in Taiwan? Because, we have a mandatory education law that people need to go to school starting at the age of 6. And so people are going to ask you, what is the legal basis for homeschooling in Taiwan? Okay. We'll understand that there were some pieces of legislation passed last year, 2014. Yes. If Timothy can share with us.
Sure. Before last year, homeschooling has been on statute since 1999 in Taiwan. Right. So actually 2 years prior to that, Taipei city government launched a pilot project and to experiment with it. But in 1999, the national education law was passed with amendment to allow any parents to choose non-school type of education. That's why it's called legally. Homeschool is called non-school type of experimental education. Okay. And it's very long and wordy, but basically that's why it is. Okay. And so since then, there's been each local government have to decide how they want to administer that program. Okay. And some local government like Taipei are very aggressive, very progressive, and then they can introduce local legislation to allow parents to apply, and others were dragging their feet. For example, Jiayi City or Mazu didn't have anything available for parents to apply until 2010. And so it was interesting because the local government was saying that there were no people applying, so we don't need a regulation for that. But when parents call and say, can we apply? They say, we don't have a regulation to accept your application. So it's a chicken and egg question. And so we started lobbying the government and trying to make changes. So like you say, now we have a central legislation which allow everyone in the country to homeschool under one law.
All right. And Dorota, if I may ask you, that you are a qualified Montessori teacher, then how do you then structure a day for your children when you homeschool them? What would be the routine that they go through? Please.
Well, actually, each day is different.
Oh, okay, good.
It's kind of difficult because it depends what we've been doing. The previous day, it depends what we're going to be doing next day. Okay. Because sometimes children are more tired, so they get up later. We don't have a specific time that they need to get up. Well, I have to wake up the 17-year-old, yes. The oldest daughter, I do have to wake her up. Otherwise, she would sleep until noon, probably.
Okay.
And then work on something until 2 o'clock in the morning. So, but that's the teenager spirit.
Of course, yes.
But then usually in the mornings, we have schooling at home. So we do some things. From workbooks, we read a lot. I still read aloud to the kids.
Good.
And we discuss things. And then after lunch, which is usually pretty late, it's more like in Poland.
Yes.
So it's around 1:30. Then kids have afternoon classes, very often somewhere outside the house. Okay. So we have to basically get everybody out of the house and go for the classes.
But Dorota, you have children that actually have some age gaps, the 18 from 13 to 5, right? I mean, how do you then, design courses for the different ages? The 18-year-old doesn't want to learn the things that 13 and vice versa. How do you do it?
Yes, so with the oldest one, she right now designs her own course, basically. Right. Or first she discusses it with us, both with Tim and I. Okay. And Tim arranges all kinds of extracurricular activities for her outside the home. But then still I take care of the things, of the projects that we discuss what kind of projects she would do at home, what she is interested in. And when it comes to 13-year-old, well, still, most of the schooling is done with him.
Okay.
And the 5-year-old, because she's just starting her, education,
exactly.
So she can do a lot by herself. She can make herself busy, so it's quite easy with her.
Okay.
And the 13-year-old, well, it's another
the bulk,
story. Yes,
the bulk of the teaching.
Exactly.
All right. And who does most of the teaching? And what subject areas for each one of them?
She does. I mean, she's the. I'm just the janitor. I'm a janitor / headmaster.
You're the cheerleader.
I'm a cheerleader. Yeah. Dorota is our principal teacher. Yeah, and I mainly I look out for resources for the kids. So, for instance, our daughter Zosha, the 18-year-old, who is very interested in media, and she wants to be a filmmaker and doing documentary and all that. Okay. So my responsibility will be going out to look for opportunities. So like she worked for public TV for some time before as an intern, and so I seek out this kind of opportunity for her. But as far as the courses and class design and so on, Dorota does most of the things.
Yeah. All right. And we're, of course, going to talk a lot more about the program you have at home. But let me ask the two of you. Have you ever thought about this may not be the right thing that you did? Thought about returning the kids back to the regular curriculum and school environment? Has that ever come across your mind? Tim?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, we thought about every day and twice on Sundays. And it's something that we are constantly aware. We have this kind of conversation with our children. We ask them at least, a few times a year.
Okay.
If that's something they want to do. And when Zosha was small, when she was in lower primary, between grade 1 to 3, she attended part-time at the school. And she noticed the difference between the school children and herself, and how they learn and how they think, and she appreciated the fact that she has the freedom and the opportunity to learn at home. Okay. And our older son, our only son Yash, who doesn't go to school that much, but he, when he interacts with school kids from outside, he noticed the difference too. So he appreciated the fact that he has, again, the freedom and the opportunity to learn the way, the speed he wants to learn, and the choice. So we do engage this kind of some conversation, and among ourselves, I am actively involved in national education.
I understand the two of you brought with you some of the works done by the kids over the years, and would you mind sharing some of them with us? Please, Dorota.
Yes, so first I would like to show you a very detailed and very complicated project that our son has made about music. It's music through the ages, so it's very long.
Oh, yes.
And the reason why we chose this topic is because he's been interested in music since he was, small.
Okay.
And so I wanted him to learn more about music, how it evolved, and different composers through the ages, from the very, very beginning until contemporary era. So.
Yes, good. Okay.
And another one, also by our son, is about jazz music.
Oh, about jazz, okay.
Yes, because our son plays saxophone, and he is actually specializing in jazz. Jazz music is what he loves the most.
Okay.
So to find out what he knows about jazz, actually, I asked him to make the project.
Yes.
So that was combining the schooling with his interest.
That's terrific. And then, so Dorota, you also take the time to talk to the children individually, and over the years observe their preferences, or their interests or inclination of the subject areas they're interested, and design the course or activities for you, Tim, around their interest. Is that pretty much the thinking?
Yes, that's correct.
The idea is that we want to build their speciality through their interests. It's much easier to sail along the flow rather than go against the stream. So if they're interested in some area, like for example, Yash is very interested in in music.
Yes.
And he wants to specialize in jazz. So we will try to give him as much knowledge as possible by asking him to do research. So all the projects you see here today, there are no textbook. Right. He has to go on Wikipedia, he has to go on Google, he has to go on a lot of places. Cool. And find all the answer himself. We just need to tell him that you're interested in jazz, so do a history, do a timeline about jazz, and then he'll go ahead and research, because that's something he listens to every day. So he's passionate about knowing more about the subject.
That's good. And let me ask you this, Dorota. Now, into the program, there could be some parents out there who are thinking about doing the same thing that you and Tim have done over the years. Homeschooling is interesting, maybe alternative to the school system here. Can you then, the two of you, tell us a little bit about the process of applying for homeschooling for your children? Mm-hmm. I know it goes through different government agencies at different levels. Can you share with us that experience, please?
Well, so once the parents decide whether or not to homeschool, whether they want to homeschool, they need to apply for homeschooling, at least the first year.
Okay.
Because you can apply for more than 1 year at one time.
Okay.
And so the application, how to apply is all on each county and the city government's education bureau's
they require
website.
Different things. Okay.
Well, it's more or less the same actually throughout Taiwan.
The main thing they needed, there are two things. One is you need to demonstrate that you have an idea how you're going to teach your kids by writing a proposal.
Right.
And so in the proposal, what we have a homeschool review board, which look at things like the objective and how you design your curriculum, what are the resources you're going to use, and any help you need.
Okay.
So, for example, a kid like ours, we may write something focused on music. Another kid may be specializing in playing Go or playing golf, or another kid may be interested in bugs, so you want to do everything about bugs. So you can do anything like that, and then as long as you write it very clearly. And one thing is to remember, you do not need to follow the national curriculum. So if you have an issue about history of Taiwan, the part you don't want to talk about or the part you really want to talk about, go ahead and design it in your curriculum. You can do anything you want.
All right. But let me ask you, out of 100 people, 100 parents that may apply for the program, what is the success rate? Okay. For example, everybody pretty much, gets an okay, or is it, a certain percent of the people may not be permitted to do so? Right.
When we are looking at the homeschool, we were reviewing the homeschool proposals. I mean, we are looking at certain things, like, for example, whether the kids' education, the right to learn has been protected or not. And most of the parents, I mean, I think the success rate is very, very high, about 99%, because those who have strong enough to make the first step of sitting down and writing the proposal is very, very hard, because you need to first convince your significant other, your spouses, your grandparents, or rather the kids' grandparents. I mean, in traditional Taiwan society, grandparents have a lot of saying over matters such as this. So you have to convince everybody in the family and then the kids itself, and then you sit down and start to write. And by that time, most of them are very clear, very determined what they want to do. So when they come to present their cases, we welcome them and we wish them good luck. And but there are still 1 or 2% who are a bit extreme, who the reason they are homeschooling is because they thought it's a great way to get ahead in exam or something. They are not really interested in broaden the education experience. Then we'll talk to them and see maybe they want to revise their proposal. Or in some cases, they simply don't want their kids to learn anything. And then we'll say maybe your kid's better off to go to school rather than staying at home.
All right. And are there any qualifications in terms of the parents? For example, you guys in a good position because, Dorota is a qualified teacher.
Right.
And is that a requirement? Or your parents need to be college graduates, for example?
No, there's no requirement for the parents.
For
Anybody
the parents.
can apply. So even if both parents are foreigners, they can also apply.
All right.
Mixed families can apply. Taiwanese, Aborigine, anybody can apply and
So you don't need to have
present.
teaching experience or credentials?
No.
We actually don't, you don't need to have a teacher certificate, and and if you are a parent, you're applying for your own kids, then no, you only need to be legal guardian. You have to have the legal authority over these kids, you know, and then because there may be issues when in case of divorce where, you know, one of the parents has the right to over the kid.
Yes.
But some parents outsource their homeschooling to tutors, and so, you know, they themselves don't feel they qualify, or they feel they can put up with the kids or something. You know, they have the passion and the idea, but they probably
can't implement.
Exactly. So you can hire a tutor, and then we'll look at tutor's qualification, you know, in that case. But if parents teaching their own kids, no, we just think, you know, you're a parent, you should know how to deal with your kids. Yeah.
And one thing a lot of people have reservations about homeschooling is regarding the children's ability to socialize, you know, to interact with their peer groups or people outside of the home environment. Has that been a concern for the two of you? Or if it was a concern, how do you deal with it? Please, Dorota.
Well, I think that in the case of our children, that has never been our concern.
Good.
And it's really a very big misunderstanding that homeschooled children do not socialize with their peers.
Okay.
It's actually the other way around, because many homeschooled children, they have to deal both with younger children and also with adults. Okay. So very often they go for classes that are mixed aged.
Yes.
So sometimes in the same group, there are children that are, you know much more than they do, or there are the younger ones who need some help. Okay. So they have to, know how to help them out, for example. Right. And also, they do get a lot of opportunities to make friends, not only within the homeschooling community, but also because they very often go for outside classes for extracurricular activities.
That's what Tim does. Yes.
Yeah, but we do encourage homeschool children to come out and to mingle. So, we organize outing once a month, and then for older kids, they organize themselves. So for the junior high and senior high homeschool kids, they organize their own outings, and for primary kids, the parents and the kids go out together once a month. Okay. And that way kids get to meet with other like-minded kids, and it does feel better. We do encourage them to come to go out and do more things together.
Okay. Yeah. We have about 1 minute left.
Sure.
I want to ask the two of you, at the end of the program, whether it's end of the sixth grade equivalent, do they get a certificate? Or does that mean that they have completed 6 years of homeschooling education? Do you get those?
Yes. During the compulsory, at the grade 6 and grade 9, they get a certificate from the district teacher at school. Yes. And at high school, after grade 12, they get a certificate of completion, which allow them to go on to university.
Okay, good. So they can attend colleges and further advance their degrees.
Yes.
And are you guys thinking about sending them to college, or do you, want to continue the program at home?
Well, it all depends on the children.
So once
it's really,
older now.
Through discussion with us.
Okay, good. All right. About the experiences, throughout the first part of the program. Next, we're going to talk about your involvement, in particular, Tim, with the local school associations. First, the Taiwan Education Advocate. Can you then tell us a little bit about this group and also what is your mission?
Okay.
Please.
We started about 7 years ago, and at that time we identified there are certain regulatory constraints which limit homeschool kids to go on. For instance, back then, homeschool was only recognized up to 9th grade. So after that, there are no high school, and you have very limited opportunity beyond that. So therefore, people tend to stop homeschooling their kids and put them back to school after primary in order to prepare for the exam. So we start lobbying the government, we start trying to get a bill through the parliament, and then the high school was recognized, was introduced, and then we have a new issue because now the homeschool kids have finished the high school. Where do they go? They need to go to college, but without a recognized high school diploma, they cannot apply for colleges, and so then we start another round, and then so we get a college to recognize our diploma. And also, when the government started to fund high school, private high school students to study, we also request a similar funding. So now, when you are homeschooling Taiwan in high school, I'm talking about senior high school, you not only get a certificate after completion, you can go to high school. You also get money from the government, which is
more on equal footing.
On equal footing, and then and you can do any subject you want. And so the protection is all the way to every county and city in Taiwan. And so it becomes probably the most progressive and most friendly place to homeschool, definitely in East Asia, if not in the whole, Eastern Hemisphere.
According to my numbers, there are over 2,760 students in Taiwan last year that have been receiving homeschooling education.
That's correct.
And given the fact that, the size is likely to grow bigger and bigger in the years to come, what will be some of the other issues, maybe for organizations like the Taiwan Education Advocates, to lobby or to encourage the government to take notice of? Please.
We are now looking again for more resources, and not necessarily in the cash hangout, because high school, that was a special case, but now we are looking at government and on venues. For example, homeschool parents and kids, they need a place to meet up. They need a place to do group study together. Like you talking about, like we were talking about in the last section. So right now we have to rent a coffee shop, or we have to meet at a train station. It's not really ideal place to do a group study. And so we're talking to government, and because right now Taiwan government, the school are facing with many empty classrooms. The population is reducing significantly. And so what can you do with the classrooms? Is it possible to convert or even just make a few available so that homeschool kids can do some of their group study there, and like a homeschool base or homeschool center in the school? So we are talking, and like I just came back from Taichung yesterday, and the Taichung mayor is very supportive, and then they are looking into that, and Taipei will looking into that as well. So more and more places will come out to have a homeschool center, which allow parents and kids to meet up and to exchange, to share experience about homeschooling.
That's terrific. We know, in addition to the Taiwan Education Advocates, the both of you are board members of the Taipei Experimental Education Review Board. And again, what is the mission of the review board? What are some of the functions that review board does? Please, Tim.
Review board basically is looking at the homeschool proposals and then make a recommendation to the Education Bureau on whether to approve or make changes to the application. The reason why we set up a review board, it was written, it was codified into the law, because previously, when the homeschool application were looked at by the bureaucracies, they have rather limited experience with homeschooling. So they tend to make decisions based on school experience. So they'll look at your timetable, schedule, class schedule, and say, does it match what the school teaches? If you teach subject,
you have exams.
Right, they have exam. They have exam, and do you wake up at 7:40 like the school? So then we realized that the best way to do it is to get a mixed group with about half from the homeschool community and another half from academic or other specialists who have experience with homeschooling. And then they can make a better suggestion to the bureaucracy and say, you know, maybe this is a good case. You know, they may look different, yes, but they are still good. Right. Because it's very difficult to have a general rule to apply to everybody.
Of course.
And so that's what the review board does. But there are other functions for review board, such as visiting homeschool family, which Dorota has more experience on that.
Okay. Yeah. Can you tell us about visitation with the homeschooling families?
Well, in Taipei, some of the applicants for homeschooling are visited by the board members.
Oh, okay.
Just, you know, not everybody, because there's so many families in Taipei that it's impossible for a group of, you know, just over 10 people, 13, 15 people to visit everybody, like 300, I think, applicants. But we do visit all the group homeschooling, homeschooling groups in Taipei, and also some families that we have some reservations of what they are really doing. You know, what kind of activities are they involved, or whether the children are not only spending time at home, but do they have contact with anybody else? So those are, you know, the families that we try to pull out and then check on them, whether, you know, the welfare of the child and the teaching.
I think that is very important for, you know, for the overall program to work.
That's right.
And next, we're going to, you know, bring Dorota back in the conversation further, because we're going to talk about the book. That you know, the two of you have written. You know, it's called "My Home is an International School."
That's right.
And you have a copy of it with you.
That's right.
And Raising Global Kids, you know, by Taiwanese dad and Polish mom. Can you tell us a little bit, what was your motivation? You know, what motivated you to write the book? And was the book based on primarily your experiences homeschooling your 3 children? Please.
Well, the idea of the book, I think, came up because there were so many people. We've already been homeschooling for some time, and then many people were asking, how do you actually do it? How are we supposed to, you know, start? Can you give us an example? So being kind of, you know, fed up with answering the same questions over and over again. How do you do it? And how do you raise children in a 3-language environment, in a multicultural environment? How do you do it? So we decided to present it in a book. The book's got a lot of photos also from our family photo album. And it basically shows, describes how we do it in our family, how we teach the 3 languages. At the time of when the book was being written, we were writing only about 2 children, the eldest ones, the oldest ones. So, and it takes the history of our family actually from the very beginning until the 4 or 5 years ago. So it is. You know, it's not a manual of how to homeschool. No, nothing like that. But you can get an idea how to manage homeschooling in a multilingual and multicultural family.
And Tim?
Well, it's the book was mainly to get people to start thinking, because we noticed that there are a lot of parents, either they haven't heard about homeschooling, or thought it was illegal, and or heard about it, thought about it, but never seen one before. So, you know, so they're thinking that it just be some unicorn myth. You know, it's just nobody.
It never happened.
Never happened. Never happened. Not in Taiwan. You know, no way. So we wrote a book to disprove that myth, and it got quite a lot of feedback. Very interesting, not only from Taiwan, but also in China. You know, after the book came out, we had the simplified Chinese version printed, which is double the amount of the traditional character. And only last week, I had a Chinese homeschool parent from Shenzhen, who came to Taiwan to visit us,
okay.
and she brought a book with her, and wrinkle, because it was packed in a suitcase. But she asked me to sign it, and she was very happy because for them, again in China, they have an even bigger issue with the education. I mean, their pressure is much higher, and Chinese parents are looking for something that they can perhaps explain to their friends, to their relatives, to their grandparents, what they are trying to do. Because for many people, they need a book like this to show what they are doing, even though they are not doing exactly the same thing, but at least they can explain the concept much easier.
All right, and quickly, we have about 30 seconds. Dorota, what's the concept of homeschooling back home in Poland? A lot of people doing it?
Not as many as in Taiwan. Although the homeschooling homeschooling started to be legal in Poland at the same time as in Taiwan, but still in Poland it's much more restricted. Kids need to go. All the children need to go back to school for exams, and they need to follow the curriculum
very
to
closely.
The letter.
Yes. All right. And I want to ask the two of you, because before the taping of this segment started, we were talking that, back some 15, 20 years ago, when you first started homeschooling your oldest daughter, it was a very different Taiwan back then, very different environment, and people's, concept, and the social trends at the time were very different from today.
Yes.
But you guys had the courage and the determination to go ahead with it. And you must have had numerous conversations and discussion about this, and you come up with the concept of what the homeschooling program should be for your children. And now, 15 years later, when you're looking back on it, has the experience been pretty much what you expected 15 years ago, or were there parts that were different than what you envisioned? Dorota?
Well, I think that it's not only been what we expected, but it's been much better than we could have expected. Because back then, it was the uncertainty that we had no idea, after elementary school, whether we can still homeschool. Later on, when it came to the end for our daughter, she finished the middle school, whether she can go, whether she'll be able to go to the high school. How is that? Because there was no regulation back then when we started about the later years. But slowly, thanks to Tim, all the regulations have changed and got cleared up. So everything right now is pretty straightforward. And when it comes to our homeschooling, our idea is to follow the child, as Maria Montessori is saying. It's basically to look at the child, what he or she is interested in at that particular time, and prepare the environment for the child to learn in that environment from the environment, and not to directly tell the children that you have to learn this and that, and if you don't do it, there are going to be consequences, or that you have to be tested. In our homeschool, there are no tests, for example. So it's,
and Tim, especially given the fact that Tim, you're Taiwanese, you're coming from a family background that probably your parents never thought about or even heard of homeschooling. You had to overcome some pretty serious barriers along the way. How did you do it?
We managed to have an interesting, constructive conversation with my family and my friends, and we explained to them that, and they all know this. They can see the problem with the Taiwan school at that time and even today, but just that they didn't have an idea how to avoid it. And they say, it's a compulsory education, so we can't do anything about it. Or everybody else goes to school, so why should my kid be different? But those are just excuses. And so, like Dorota said, it's been very good. Zosha and Yash, the son and the daughter, is 5-year difference, and then the 7-year difference between Yash and Anya. So we saw the changes in terms of the whole environment. When we start homeschooling with Zosha, I remember the first day we registered at school, a teacher looked at us and said, excuse me, but are your kids special? Like, is anything interesting we should be care of? You know, we should know about because she looked normal. I said, she is normal. It's just that we want to homeschool. That's it. Yes. And now, by the time Yash is starting, it's, you know, like they heard about it. They know what's going on. And now when Anya will be starting school age next year, there will be plenty of kids who are homeschooled, and everybody would have heard about it. Okay. So that's a big changes. Yeah.
After the efforts by the two of you over the last 15 plus years, and also, you know, with your book, there's still a lot of misconceptions about homeschooling in Taiwan. You know, in particular, maybe 2 points. One is the kids are stuck at home all day, and second is what we discussed earlier. They don't have any, you know, friends. They don't socialize. They lack the interpersonal skills. Are those misconceptions still prevalent in Taiwan?
In a homeschooling community, it's the whole families that know each other. Exactly. So we know exactly where those kids, where the friends of our children come from, you know, who their parents are. Very often, you know, the parents are our friends. Yeah. So, you know, it's like it's a bigger group, it's a bigger friendship, and those friendships are much closer, and probably they will be lasting much longer. Yes. And not necessarily the friendships are made on the same age level. No. You know, they can be kids a few years older, kids a few years younger that can be friends. Okay. So it's pretty different, quite different to the, you know, friendships at school.
Okay. Yes.
I think it's also a generation issue. When we started Dorota homeschooling, and back then most of the parents are about our age, and then but this time when Anya will be starting homeschooling, many of her peers' parents, they would be what we called, they're basically born after the lifting of martial law in '87. So they, when they go to school, they grew up watching demonstration, and they take liberty for as given. Yes. You know, they think parents have the right to choose, and as simple as that. So, so for them, what we're doing is not so strange and so foreign anymore, because that's how they grew up. And I think that's a big difference. So we're looking at this generation's parents. They'll be asking school for more, not more cramming their kids, but more respecting individual development. And if school cannot deliver that, and they are going to take the education back to themselves and say,
we're going to do it.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
We're going to do it right.
Right, exactly.
Okay. But, you know, Tim, you know, the both of you on the review board, but of course, Tim, that you probably come across with a lot of, you know, parents who are thinking of, you know, homeschooling their children. You know, they're going to come up with a request, whether it's, you know, are we qualified? Is the program, you know, have some particular requirements and things? And what would be the recommendation or suggestions that you make to prospective parents who want to homeschool their children?
Right.
Tim.
Besides buying the book,
yes,
watch this program. Yes, and, I think the first thing to do is to join one of our outings. You know, there are outings everywhere in Taipei, in Taichung, Kaohsiung. So join the outing and bring your kids along and talk to the other parents who are already doing it, and see whether this is something you want to do. Homeschooling is not just about education. It's a way of life. So your whole family will change, period. And so it really is a big commitment. So, you know, it's not just about writing a proposal and getting approved. And it's about everything. So you really need to live homeschooling. And then you can talk to the other parents, have your kids talk to other kids, and see if that's really what you want to do. And if that's what you want to do, go back, talk to your spouse and talk to the grandparents, talk to everybody, and really sit down, talk to the kids to look at what the interests are, and then to write a proposal that really is what you think, not somebody else's, and you just change the name.
Okay. And Dorota, your mother, of course, and also you are more, you know, detailedly involved with the curriculum at home. What would be some of the things that you would recommend to parents when they observe the children's development whether, they can be able to discover or pick up, trades that their kids may be better suited in certain area, and maybe they should not pursue, certain, professional path. What would be your recommendation?
Well, you always have to discuss with the child.
Okay.
Discussion is a main point, I think, in our homeschool, that you have to talk to the children about their choices, about their interests. And then, of course, you can sometimes navigate them through to further their interest. But also, if you think that their choice is wrong, you listen to them, but of course you can also give your own advices. And so it's you just have to find this level, of communication with the child and see. And you also have to be open-minded. Yes. Very often children have different ideas to yours, and very often they want to do something that you have completely no idea about. Okay. But then you have to, you have to learn sometimes with them, together with them.
Grow up with it. Yeah. Yes. Finally, I want to ask the two of you a question probably sometimes you ask yourselves. Is the fact that do you still prefer homeschooling education over traditional ones? Tim?
Yes.
Okay. And you have no regrets if you had to do it over again?
No, I think...
We will be doing it over again with a 5-year-old.
The fact that we have the oldest and youngest, like almost 13-year difference, we are redoing, but we are doing over again, continue to do over again. But it will be very different. Time has changed, our experience is different, but we're still going down this path.
Okay, and Dorota?
Yes, exactly. It's, we will be starting, or rather, we already started with the youngest one, while the oldest one is, already almost out of our schooling. Yes. So I don't think there is any other way for us to do it.
You would have done differently. Yes. Well, it's certainly been a pleasure and a wonderful experience having the two of you on the program today. I, as a parent, certainly have learned a lot from the two of you, and you have also blazed a trail for a lot of the parents in Taiwan, especially amidst all the controversies we have concerning Taiwan's education system. Right. I want to wish you and the family all the best in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on Macro View Television. Thank you.